I went on to 5 different Facebook groups for youth ministry and just asked everybody one question. Hey everybody, my name is Ronald Long. I've been a youth pastor for 16 years. And the one question that I asked tons of youth pastors in these Facebook groups was just, what's your biggest frustration? I just asked them, what's your biggest frustration with youth ministry right now? And I got hundreds and hundreds of responses. All right, so I think that can tell us just a couple things right off the bat. And if you're in youth ministry, you probably can understand some of these as well. Number one thing that we learn is that youth pastors are frustrated. And that is just a reality. Now, people talk about and make jokes and say, like, ministry would be easy except for the people. The problem with that is that ministry is people. Like, we will deal with people all the time, especially youth pastors. We will deal with people who are going to be interesting. I say that lovingly. Again, having been a youth pastor for 16 years, you're going to deal with youth. As a youth pastor, you will deal with students. And it was funny when I asked youth pastors, what's your biggest frustration in youth ministry right now? One that kept coming up in every single group was just the youth. I was like, should you be in youth ministry if like your biggest frustration is just the people you're trying to minister to? I would love for you to fight me in the comments if you want to on that one. So youth pastors are frustrated. They deal with frustration. They deal with frustration from youth, from parents, from staff, and from volunteers that they are having to deal with. So there are lots of frustrations. Here's something else that I learned too. The frustrations are similar. What I thought was really interesting when I was looking through and asking just what are you frustrated about in youth ministry right now, a lot of them were the same. A lot of people were asking, saying different things about their frustrations and what they thought was their biggest issue that they were dealing with in youth ministry. But as I went through and I scoured through all the comments and was keeping tally of these different things that they were dealing with, several frustrations rose to the top in youth ministry world, telling me that youth pastors, as much as you might serve in different places, in different denominations, different size churches, different context of churches, inner city, rural, big churches, small churches, no matter what size church you're in or what the context of your youth ministry is, there are frustrations that are similar to everyone doing youth ministry. And then the last thing that I noticed, when you post a question on Facebook, there becomes dialogue. I saw a lot of dialogue, but I saw very few solutions. I didn't see a lot of youth pastors offering what they could potentially do to solve these frustrations. I saw a lot of youth pastors coming in underneath the comments and kind of, saying, yes, me too. I also struggle with this. And so what I am realizing is that youth pastors are frustrated, and I agree because I had my own share of frustrations in youth ministry. Those frustrations are similar, so we're dealing with similar things. And then I saw very few solutions being offered to those frustrations. If you want to say 4, I did see 1 or 2 Jesus jukes. But okay, we all understand. We should absolutely pray more. We should read our Bible more. We should teach students the Word of God, and we should talk about the things that we're excited about. Those youth pastors absolutely showed up in the comments as well. Thank you. We know. But as much as we can pray more, which we should, and read our Bible more, which we should, and teach students the Word of God, which we absolutely should, just doing those things is not going to take away our biggest frustrations. We're still going to be having these problems that we're trying to deal with. So, the first thing I'd like to tell you is what those frustrations were and the similarities that I saw. And if you have these same issues, I'd love for you to tell me down in the comments. I'm going to erase my board. Thank you, Hobby Lobby, for sponsoring this video. Not a sponsor. Hobby Lobby, let's talk, you and me. Okay, so youth pastors, a lot of similar frustrations, but what were they? All right, so the number one frustration that I saw, and this is just me right now, polling Facebook groups. I'm actually doing a survey where I'm speaking to those individual youth pastors and like following up with them about that. If that's something you're interested, there's a link down below in the comments section where you could fill out a quick survey and you and I could have a 30-minute Zoom call. I'd love to talk with you. Not selling anything, but I'd love to talk with you. Number one frustration that I saw for youth pastors that was rising to the top was parental or the involvement. I can spell things today. Involvement of parents. Just the parents' involvement. And usually that was in a couple of different forms, what the youth pastor would say. They would either say there was no parent involvement, meaning that their students were either walking to church or showing up at church or being bussed into church, but the parents were absolutely not present at all and probably didn't care if their kids came to youth group or not. That was one frustration that I saw with parent involvements. I saw also the idea of just drop-off culture, where parents aren't involved. They just swing by the church, drop off their students, and go away. And so the youth pastor either never connects with the parents, never sees the parents, or hears from them face to face. They just aren't around. Like they're bringing their students, but the parent's not there. Or this was also a thing that I saw a little bit coming up as well. Is there an E here? You can correct me down in the comments. I don't think there's an E in discipleship. Apathy or a lack of discipleship in the home. So the parents are involved in such a way that like they bring their students to church, but there's zero interest in having their students actually do more at home. You know, not reading the Bible together, not praying together, not looking at themselves as parents as the main discipler of their kids. So this was the first one that I saw. This was frustration number 2. My marker. Oh, there we go. We're back. Consistent. Inconsistent attendance. Over and over and over again, I saw youth pastors saying that they were frustrated with the fact that their students were not attending church consistently. Now, as a youth pastor, I know that my goal would be for a student to show up 4 times a month. Meaning every week I would want a student to show up. I understand that, you know, we have those 5 weeks Sundays or 5-week months and things like that. But the idea was that whenever we had youth group, I would want a student to show up to that. And so what we want here is students to show up 4 times a month. What we're seeing is students were not and are not showing up 4 times a month. Instead, they're showing up 2 times a month. And that can be really frustrating for a youth pastor to deal with because they have a student there half of the time, right? So imagine you're teaching a series on Jonah, right? So Jonah is a popular series to teach in youth ministry because it's 4 chapters long, and so you can just get through it in 4 weeks. And so a student comes for Jonah chapter 1, fantastic. And then the student misses Jonah chapter 2, what's happening? And then they come back for Jonah chapter 3, and they get a really interesting part, and then Jonah chapter 4 happens and the student's not there as well. Okay, well, that would be a problem. Unless the student takes it upon the initiative on themselves to like read the book of Jonah, they're going to get a kind of a different story if they only show up for 2 chapters of what should be a 4-week lesson. So that is something that I saw a lot. And then this also was rising to the top when it talked about attendances. Only attending 1 service. Okay, meaning a church offers multiple opportunities for students and their parents to come to church, but the students are only showing up for one of those opportunities. So imagine you are at a church and you meet on Sunday, and then, well, let's say Sunday a.m., Sunday p.m., and then we'll say midweek. Right? Midweek could be just any other weeknight. So I know youth groups, you meet on Monday night or Wednesday night or Thursday night. This was youth parents saying, or youth pastors saying, hey, I have a kid who attends on Sunday. They are there. Yes, thank you. This is awesome. But they don't show up to youth group on Sunday night, or they don't show up to youth group on midweek, or vice versa, right? This is not the case. And actually, they're showing up on midweek, but I never see them any other time throughout the week. So inconsistent attendance was also a big issue that was coming up in these youth pastor chats. All right, there are 2 more. So we'll get through this here. Yeah. Fantastic. All right, so number 3, lack of volunteers. If you agree, put an amen in the comments. Give me some praise hands or something. Lack of volunteers is something that a lot of youth pastors were having trouble with and sharing that they are frustrated by this. Either the volunteers aren't committing, so let's say, we have volunteers with no commitment, right? Maybe they show up for a year or 6 months and then drop out. Or they have volunteers who are immature, yeah. Or they just have 0 help, right? So it could be any combination of these things that I was seeing in these groups. Lack of volunteers, meaning they might have volunteers, but they don't keep them because they don't have a commitment to the youth ministry. They might have volunteers, but they're super immature and they feel like they're pulling teeth trying to get them to be a part of the youth ministry and help serve. Or what they mean is they have no volunteers. So like no one's actually showing up at all. So maybe it's just the youth pastor, or just the youth pastor, and if they're married, their spouse. So lack of volunteers was a big one. And I know that this can be huge because if you have, let's say, 10 students in your ministry, sure, one youth pastor can get to know them pretty well, right? And we can understand that you can have a relationship with 10 people. But of those students, let's say 7 of them are female and 3 are male. It doesn't matter what gender you are as a youth pastor, one of these 2 is going to be a gender that you as a youth pastor cannot reach well. because you're just one of these. So this is an issue, and it can be an issue with church safety as well. If your church has policies, which it probably should, where you can't be one-on-one with a student. Well, let's say you have 10 students, but there's a night when only one student shows up to youth group. Well, what do you do in those circumstances? You just have to cancel because you, as the youth pastor, can't be one-on-one with a student? Or maybe two show up, but they're both females and you're a male youth pastor. Call me crazy, that might be weird. All right, so lack of volunteers leading to issues here. And then this is a problem as well. Maybe you don't have 10 students, maybe you have 100 students. If you've got one youth pastor trying to minister to that many students with a big lack of volunteers, or volunteers who have no commitment or immature, that's going to be a frustration for you. And I can understand that as well. And then there was one more frustration that was really rising up to the top. And this was a lack of funds. Lack of funds, meaning this youth pastor has to fundraise to do things with the youth. So normally, a lack of funds means a couple things. We're dealing with a smaller church who doesn't value youth group, or can't afford youth group. This is not I'm not dissing these churches, right? I'm not trying to down talk them. A lack of funds is usually leading to these issues. And you can imagine what these issues might be. If you're at a smaller church, you probably have fewer students. If you have fewer students, you might not have as much value on the youth ministry. And if you're the youth pastor in a smaller church, more than likely you're wearing several hats as well. You might not just be the youth minister, you might be youth and music, or youth and tech, or youth and missions, or youth and all three of those things. So the value might not be there for the youth ministry because you're the extra pastor, the additional pastor on staff who does youth and. Or this is a church that can't afford youth group, therefore you have to fund it. And you have to do fundraisers, and you have to figure out what those fundraisers look like. And the problem with a lack of funds and difficult fundraisers, when you also have a lack of volunteers, pulling off a fundraiser is no fun because you don't have people there to help you out with it. And then also in this as well, oh my goodness. Oh no, I missed. There's a mosquito loose in my house. I've never been so upset. If you have a lack of funds as a youth ministry, it's also possible that you are part-time or bivocational. Imagine being a part-time youth pastor or a bivocational youth pastor who already has a lack of funds, and you're part-time in order to help the church, but there's not funds to do youth ministry. And so all of these frustrations were rising up to the top. These four main ones. So you're watching this video and you might be like, yeah, I get it. I'm frustrated with those things. I also want parents to be involved. I also want my students to attend more frequently. I also want more volunteers. And I also would love more money to do the youth ministry things that I envisioned for this church. Now, to be completely transparent, there are more frustrations. way more frustrations. Those right now are just the top four that are rising up to the front. So just as a reminder for us, our frustrations are parents, attendance, volunteers, and fundraising. These four things, like I said, right now are the top 4 in these youth pastor groups that I've been surveying. They're the ones that are the most right now. There are other ones that are coming up, and maybe I want to talk about those too later. But what I want to let you know right now is that I've been doing youth ministry for 16 years. I don't have all the answers, but I think I could have some solutions if you're struggling with these things right here. Now, I am offering down below a quick PDF to help you with all 4 of these things. It is just the emergency guide to surviving youth ministry. And I put this together because I am seeing these needs happening here. But like I told you at the very beginning, I'm not seeing a lot of solutions being offered that I think might possibly help youth pastors. So if you are struggling with any one of these 4 things and you would love some direction, down below there's a link. You can sign up for my email list and I will give you the emergency guide to surviving youth ministry. And in that, there will be these 4 things that I offer solutions to. I also want to help you out in some other ways as well. When you subscribe to this, that next email that you get is going to have a link to a course. The course looks like it costs money. Don't pay money for this course. It's free. All right. This course deals with the main issue that I see happening in youth ministry, which is how do we get parents involved? What do you do with this? And I'm actually going to start doing some videos, just a channel for how to minister to parents, how to get them involved, how to show them that youth ministry is important and what the psychology of that looks like and what your role as youth pastor is. And so, like I said, don't pay for this. I've been a youth pastor for 16 years. I know how much money you have. It's very little. So don't pay for it. On the website, it looks like it's $50. Don't pay that. It's free. Sign up for the email list. You'll get a code. It'll be free. Dealing with parents. I'm on your team. And so what I'm going to be doing in this channel over the next while is breaking down how to deal with these 4 things and offering as many possible solutions as I possibly can, because I have been frustrated with these things as well. I have done youth ministry and have seen these myself. And I did some things that kind of worked for these 4 categories. And I'd love to share them with you. So if you are excited about that and that's something you want as well, I would love for you to join me on this journey. I'm going to be trying to release 1 video a week so that you can see what's happening. When you subscribe to this email, I'm just going to send you an email saying that the next video is live so that you can see it as well. I don't want you to miss it. And I want you to be around and you to get the help that you need, because being frustrated as a youth pastor is no good, right? Because you're already dealing with a lot of frustrations in church, as well as trying to balance family, trying to balance the budget, your personal one, which I understand, again, probably not a lot there. Trying to be seen as a real pastor and not just a real pastor someday, or someone who will be a real pastor someday. These frustrations are tough, and I get it. And I want to show you that I'm with you and I'm on your team. So do me a favor, download the Emergency Guide to Surviving Youth Ministry. My email's in there. I'd love to hear from you. If this is helpful, let me know. If there could be some ways to improve this, let's improve it together. As youth ministers, we can help each other out. So that's what I want to do with this. Hey, thank you so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see some helps on dealing with these things in the future. I would greatly appreciate it. Thanks. We'll see you soon.